I recently took three trades across gold, GBPUSD, and EURUSD. And guess what? All three hit my stop loss. Normally, once my stop loss is hit, I consider the trade finished and move on. But this time, I decided to watch what happened afterward. And what I discovered gave me a completely different perspective on stop losses and re-entries. Let me show you. My trading process starts from the 1 hour time frame. I use the 1 hour chart to determine my overall market direction and identify my area of interest. Once price gets into that area, I move down to the 5 minute time frame where I wait for confirmation before taking an entry in the direction of my higher time frame bias. Now let's look at what happened with these three trades. First, gold. I took a setup based on my confluences, but eventually my stop loss was hit. And honestly, looking at the chart afterward, I deserved that loss. Why? Because the market eventually invalidated my original bias. So, in this situation, there was no reason for me to keep looking for another entry. The idea was simply wrong. But then I looked at GBPUSD. My first entry also hit stop loss, but something was different. After my stop loss was taken, the market did not actually invalidate my higher time frame basis bias. Instead, it continued to develop. Later, the market gave me another confirmation to enter in the same direction. If I had taken that second opportunity, the trade would have given me roughly 1:6 risk to reward, and the move was still continuing. And then I looked at Euro USD. This one really caught my attention. Again, my initial trade hit stop loss, but the higher time frame idea was still valid. The market later gave another confirmation and another opportunity to enter. And if I had taken that re-entry, that move eventually offered roughly 1:26 risk to reward and is still counting. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that I would have necessarily captured the entire 1:26 move, but that's not even the point. The point is what happened after my stop loss. And that's when I realized something very important. A stop loss does not always mean your market analysis was wrong. Sometimes your overall bias can be correct, but your first entry can simply be wrong. The markets might take your stop, create another structure, give you another confirmation, and then make the move you originally anticipated. So I've started making a very important distinction. A failed entry is not necessarily an invalidated bias, but there's a very important one in here. I'm not saying that every time you lose a trade, you should keep entering until you eventually win. That's how you turn re-entry into revenge trading. For me, after a stop loss, I'm going back to the 1 hour chart and asking one question. Has my higher time frame bias actually been invalidated? If the answer is yes, I'm done. But if the bias is still valid, I can continue watching the market. And if the market gives me a completely new 5 minute confirmation and a fresh setup, I can consider one more entry. I'll also be limiting myself to a maximum of 2 attempts on the same idea. So this isn't loss, revenge trade, loss, revenge trade. It is more of loss, reassess the bias, wait for new confirmation, and then possibly a re-entry. And this is something I'm going to start testing properly. From next week, whenever I get stopped out, I'm going to record whether my higher time frame bias remained valid, whether a legitimate re-entry appeared, and what happened afterward. Because I'm not going to assume that this is an edge just because I found two beautiful examples. I'm going to let the data prove it. And honestly, that's probably the biggest lesson I took from this trade. Sometimes the lesson isn't in the trade you lost, it is what the market did after you lost that trade. And that's the lesson I wanted to share with you today. If you found this useful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with another trader who might need to hear this. And if you are looking for a broker to trade with, I personally use a broker that doesn't charge swap fees or commission fees, including when you hold trades overnight. If you would like to check it out, I'll leave my link in the description and in the comments. As always, Don't just take my word for anything I teach. Test it, journal it, and let your own data prove whether it works. I'll see you in the next one. Keep learning, keep improving, and keep becoming a better trader.